I probably did that after the other parts, so they're really responding to. I've maybe found a guitar approach that I can really get lost in as a sort of A.G. Cook sound.
This episode is being supported by Tape It. If you currently use voice notes to record your ideas, you should try Tape It instead.
Her guitar technique is to use lots of different tunings, basically. A lot of tunings. She has a whole book, and I think she's memorized all of them anyway. I'm talking like 40 tunings or something.
Right.
So I went from not having any guitars available to constantly having guitars at hand, but they would all be in mystery tunings. So I'd pick them up and just sort of, figure it out. And that was really, really fun to write whole songs and still have some of the technique that I would have had, but to have to, go back to square zero. And it meant I couldn't remember that sort of Strokes chord or Hendrix lick or whatever it was that I once knew. And I had to really approach it as a listener, hearing the texture, hearing the notes, all these other things. And then I started to cotton on to certain tunings, and a lot of the 7G songs are in one of Alaska's tunings where it has a kind of D sharp thrown in it. So it creates this constant tension in it. So all that, the Yonsei album being around Alaska and her guitars, and also at that point having established a bunch of Charlie albums and mixtapes where I was willing to take those risks. I was looking for other kind of full circle things to happen. So all of those things happened kind of in 1 year. And it just took me out of my comfort zone, which is all I'm looking for when I'm messing around with computers anyway. So, but I still do take a very focused view on it, I guess back to Serenade, I actually just got a very specific guitar, probably my first proper guitar that wasn't just one of Alaska's kind of, but it was a Floyd Rose, so it means locked pickups, but a Telecaster. So it had this sort of whammy kind of setup that you'd normally have in Van Halen or Steve Vai, but onto this very vintage Telecaster. And that also has a secret switch where the pickups can either be quiet vintage ones or loud metal humbuckers. So for me, I was like, okay, this is gonna be interesting. Once again, these extremes, I can at a flick of a switch go from vintage to sort of modern and this sort of weird bending. So I got that guitar around the time of making this and a lot of the other Britpop guitar tracks. And because I suddenly had this guitar that was a little bit unusual, I could play with a different type of clean guitar sound that I think is quite different to what I'm doing in 7G. 7G, I'm almost using the guitar as a sort of persona, or maybe some classic guitar sounds. So it'd be an acoustic one, or a sort of heavier rock one, or I kind of go through a few modes. And then, I'm messing with them a little bit, but I would say Britpop is a much more consistent and unique guitar aesthetic that comes from me having access to the guitar, doing stuff with pedals in a slightly more informed way. I'm actually barely adding guitar effects in Logic. I'm doing as much as I can with guitar pedals, recording DI, no amp, just being almost treating the guitar as I would a very simple synth sound that I'm gradually making edits to. So actually, if I isolate, there's a few interlocking parts, but I think if I just solo all of the bits.
This episode is being supported by our good friends at Tape It, the iPhone app made specifically for musicians. If you, like many of our guests, use voice memos, then as far as we're concerned, switching to Tape It is an obvious choice. It's free, and there are a load of features you won't find on Apple's Voice Memos app, including the ability to record straight from your lock screen, set markers, add notes, include photos of settings, and you can easily import your old voice notes, sync to the cloud, and create shared playlists with co-writers and bandmates. So head to the link below to install the app now. And if you want even more, check out Tape It Pro and use the promo code TAPENOTES to receive a whopping 50% off. And now, back to the episode.
You'll hear there's a lot of very specific things that I'm playing that are almost just cut off. So I'm just playing these one bits, and if I play the bit underneath it, I've got the more chord ones under it. And even the chords are very specifically played. Because actually the other thing with this guitar is it on that humbucker mode, it can be perfectly silent as well. So I could really control the silences. And obviously that's always something you can exaggerate in how you produce it. But it was fun to play it like that, to have these kind of... And then because I've got that sort of aesthetic happening, let's listen to the synths with just one of those parts. You'll hear I'm then peppering it with very specific synths that in my mind are related to that sort of tone. So.
So are you just playing along, or do you loop things, or do you plan it out?
I think for the little guitar bits, they're probably improvised and then I'm just picking ones. I think I would have written the actual chord sequence separately and that would have felt good. And then the synths, I'm once again just like clicking in and really, I probably did that after the other parts, so they're really responding to... They're kind of fitting in between. And you can hear some of the guitar parts. Is it this one? So that's got some of the sort of bend that I can do with a lot more control because of that sort of Steve Vai type Floyd Rose. Is this one pitched up? I'm not sure. It also has a certain clickiness. Some of the pickups you can see. Is it maybe this one? You'll hear it. Yeah, like that little click. That's just me. That's my pick on the pickup. There's also a section later where you have these really high pitched. And that only happens once in the song, even though it's quite a distinctive part of it. That's me using a pedal again. That's the pitchfork pedal, electro harmonics, and I think it's a distillation of the whammy pedal that is a sort of Rage Against the Machine sound, right, where it's like kind of, it's got this grain from like, it's because it's digital, but it's early digital, so it's not pitching it up perfectly. It's got this kind of sound, and that's sort of actually what I'm referencing in Heartache as well. In that one breakdown, I was like, I pitched it up and down to get that alias-y crunch. So it was nice to get to arrive at that kind of sound that's clean but alias-y, but just using, not even using Logic and just doing it all on pedals and then playing it over these other things and making it very, another thing I'll do in a lot of tracks is that one you can hear, and it's pretty basic, but there's a left one, there's a left one doing one version of it where I'm sort of bending in and out, and then the right one has the kind of more... And you can hear the kind of like struggle to have it that octave, but it's just... But yeah, that philosophy reminds me of some of the things I'm doing in the synths and on synths on other tracks. So I think that's why this track felt quite important to me. And why it's a bit less of a song than some of the other Disc 2 ones, because it was more like, I've maybe found a guitar approach that I can really get lost in as a sort of A.G. Cook sound, rather than wearing the mask of like, some other kind of genre maybe.